This is the second live and in-person inspiration session for 2025, specially curated for Elevate by Matt Bolton-Alarcón of Special Source Training, ensuring that our community receives the most valuable and impactful tools, resources, and inspiration. In this talk, Matt will help you unlock your creative mindset, break thought patterns, reframe challenges, and spark fresh ideas with simple, practical strategies. The presentation referred to in this session can be downloaded from the episode show notes. This podcast is recorded at Protein Studios in Shoreditch with a live audience.
Hello! How are we on this random Tuesday? Thanks for coming inside on this balmy evening. I'm going to always start by getting you to do some things. So I know we're doing some nice catching up in the bar area there, but I'd like you to turn and face your neighbour. If you're looking at the back of someone's head, it's the other neighbour. So get into pairs. But then listen, you've got a brief. I'd like you to share with each other an idea out there. It might be a piece of tech, it might be a service that you use, whatever it may be analog, it doesn't have to be digital, that has an impact on your life. Whatever that may be, something that has an impact on your life. Quick share with your neighbour, away you go. What you just heard there was the cacophony of Elevate. That is, what a noise, all going at once, that is incredible. So let's just hear some of these ideas. Doesn't have to be profound, disruptive technology, whatever it may be. Simple things that make your life better. What have we got? ChatGPT. Absolutely. First of all, when it came out, I was like, I'm scared of it. It's like, I'm using it for everything. Yeah, fantastic. What else? Well-being. So actually, and is there a product that helps you do that, or is that just a big thought? Right, absolutely. So you are doing an activity that you could just badge. Some people might badge as, well, that's sport. No, it is solving a different problem for me. Yeah, dealing with something different. What else have we got out there? Apple Watch. Yeah, okay. Who's a fan of the Apple Watch? Who swears by them? Who bought one and then they thought, what the hell is this? Yeah. This is my result of getting an Apple Watch. I went, I can't do with the distraction. I just want a Casio F91W doing nothing. Anyway, interesting. So ideas that are adding value to us. Now, the key thing I would say, the provocation for tonight's session is, the reason why all those ideas in the room are having a fantastic impact is not because they're a great idea, per se. It's because the person behind the idea has thought about the problem that it's solving for. Okay, they've really thought about this bit of tech, this great idea, this bit of creativity. What is the real issue it's solving for? And that's the discipline I want to talk about tonight. Being a great creative problem solver. Key word in creative problem solver is the word problem. I used to work for a creative team, first job out of university. I used to work for a production company, and the boss was called Brian Percival. And we went off making TV commercials. He then went on to direct Downton Abbey. I'm sure my time as a production assistant in a warehouse in Manchester inspired him onto those great things. I then worked for a creative team in a media business where we were just put on the spot. Give me an idea. Ideas factory, 5 ideas a day. Give me a pun, give me an idea for a commercial, give me an idea for a promotion, whatever it may be. And I've learned over the 20 years of doing this stuff that creativity involves ideas. We need to have that spark and passion for brainstorming, but they're no good unless we've really thought forensically about what is the problem we're here to solve, okay? So, this is me. This is me and I do a lot of conference work. I speak at conferences. I design conferences in terms of the people experience. I MC at conferences. Here are some things that help me in my day-to-day work. At conferences, I don't know if you ever have this, where there are some sessions where technology is a great enabler. You might be using an app, like Klaxoon or whatever. Great, get the interactivity going, a conference app. However, there are some sessions where you need people free from technology, okay? And like tonight, arguably this is a tech-free zone for the next 30 minutes of your life. Now, the problem is, as the facilitator, if you tell people, can you get off your phones, you've created this parent-child relationship. It's not very nice. So actually, what a great idea to solve for that I've used at conferences is the telephone spa, where people walk in, you go, it'd be great if you could be off the tech. You put it at the back of the room, lovely little bath with them all in, and then you charge them up while you're in the set. It'd be fully charged at the end of it, and then one of the team gives them each a screen wipe, so it comes back fresh at the end of it. And also, if there's a better model, just steal it. It's fine. So that's solving a problem, a great idea, solving a specific problem for me. You can't really see this on the screen, but there's another thing. I work a lot from home, delivering workshops from home, coaching people online, heads down work, planning stuff, whatever it may be. And I was having a problem with my neck. I was realizing that actually working on the same screen wasn't working for me. So I've invested, everyone. Give me an ooh. I've gone big. I've got the Apple Studio display. I mean, it's a big moment in my life. More importantly, though, it's the tilt screen. It allows me to do, when I need to do heads-up work and have lots of screens going on and I'm dealing with stuff all over, kind of like that. It's really useful for that. If I need to be on a video conference at the right eye level, I can bring it right down. It's solving problems for me. I'm approaching a big, significant birthday. I had a great moment at the bar earlier where someone thought it was 10 years younger than what it actually is this year. Thank you for that. And anyway, so I have a problem, which is every now and again with technology, I come across as an old duffer. And one of the classic moments is when you say, see attached in the email, and then it doesn't go with an attachment. Anyone ever had that in your life? People are looking at you going, you need to retire. You need to retire. Google solves for that. If you put see attachment in an email copy, it reminds you before you send the email, do you want to send an attachment? So God bless Gmail. So there we go. Ideas that are out there that are solving problems that are existing for us in the world. When people come to me and say, well, what is a formula for creative problem solving, a bit of a process? The danger is there are some companies with 10-step processes for having solving problems and having ideas and innovation. I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. I think there's 3 parts to a formula for this. Number 1 starts with problems. You need to really look at what the actual problem is. Second thing is you need insight, as in you need understanding about the people you're solving for, the audience you're looking at, the customer you're dealing with, the audience that are arriving at your conference, the people that are using your product. You need to understand stuff about them beyond the data. Data will tell you so much. Insight is where actually you get real understanding, okay? And then you follow that up with solutions to solve for that problem. So it looks simple, but the amount of times when I see people walking around going, I've got this idea. It's like, what is it solving for? And do you have any understanding about the context about where that idea might fit? Okay? So, and the big thing, have we got any trained mathematicians in the room? Just a hand raise. It leads to very awkward chat later on at the bar, so that's why no one's got their hand up. But you'll notice that has multiplication signs within that formula. Miss any of these, and the danger is your end result is 0. Right? So always be mindful when people are getting creative, coming up with ideas, are you following the discipline of all 3 elements of that equation? Because if you don't, you end up with invention versus innovation, real impact in the world. The most famous example of this goes back to the turn of the century, the Segway. The initial problem it was designed for was to revolutionize the way humans are transported to work, commute to work. That was what they were going for. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates invested personal wealth in it. Steve Jobs said, quote, this is going to be bigger than the personal computer. He was correct. They were freaking massive. And that was a bit of a problem for people. So when it launched, it was a massive fail. And the reason why it was a fail was that wasn't a real problem in the world. Bicycles are fantastic. Yeah. Now we've evolved and things have changed, and actually we are using these in slightly different ways because they're more affordable, they're not as big to store and all those things, but it wasn't a real problem in the world. Okay. This one here I found online. This is for £1,800. You can buy an umbrella drone. So you walk down the street, you don't need to hold the umbrella, but you can control it as it goes over you. I'm just going to hop on this bus. Oh, shit. It's not a real problem, though. A normal umbrella is absolutely fantastic. You can even customize them. They're incredible. Okay, so there are a lot of ideas. Anyone else got an idea out there that they thought was going to change their life, and actually you're going, it doesn't solve a problem for me. For me, sorry, the Apple Watch. Wasn't a problem for me. Time tracking on a device on my arm was working perfectly fine for me, but obviously it delivers us other things as well, connectivity, instant access, whatever it may be. Right, so it's all about problems. And for the last 10 years, I've been banging on about, creativity is all about ideas, have ideas. And I had this phrase that I've used for many years, which was, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And I thought to myself, I should write a book on that. Procrastinated. Some other person wrote a book on that, so it's really annoying, but it's a fantastic read. The founder of Waze, if they weren't busy enough running an incredible tech business that got bought by Google, wrote this book, fantastic book on falling in love with the problem, not the solution. So thanks for stealing the phrase, but there we go. So a great read on this. So that is what tonight's session is all about. You get creative, you get better ideas when you really fall in love with the problem, okay? Now, what I will say is I've got 3 techniques to help you do that tonight. We're going to make them fun, hopefully interactive, but more importantly, memorable and sticky. So to get into the first one, I'm going to tell the most overused story when it comes to the subject of creative problem solving. Has anyone ever heard the story of the NASA space pen? Yeah, a few nods, but a few people going, no, haven't seen that story. So here we are. Does anyone own one? I have one here. I have one here. This is when you tell your family you started working in creativity and innovation. They go on Amazon and they buy you these. I got 3 one Christmas. So there we go. And my family's really small. So 1960s, space race. You've got astronauts going up in space, cosmonauts going up as well. Lots of innovation happening. On these missions, they come back down and go, we need these things. We've got a problem, we need these things. And one of the issues were that when they went up into space and they had standard Bic biros, they didn't work at 0 gravity because ink wasn't going to the nib and wasn't working. So they came down and went, we need a pen that writes in space. So it was sent out to tender by NASA. Fisher, the company Fisher said, we will not charge you for this project. We're going to actually do this as a prestige project. We're going to do it so that we can put it on our website, etc. Didn't have one in 1967. So they did it, and they invented this. Not only an amazing pen, but look at the case. Okay, it's the surface of the moon, everyone. We have craters in a piece of packaging. Okay, but more importantly, why does it work? It's made of titanium, very strong. And what's clever is you take the lid off, it's perfect pen shape, fits in the pocket of the spacesuit here. But the most important bit is it's got a pressurized ink cartridge that drives ink to the nib in all kinds of conditions. You can write underwater with this. Very useful in space. I know what you're thinking. You can write upside down all day with this pen. It's allegedly where Michelangelo sketched out the Sistine Chapel before he committed paint to ceiling. Okay. I might have to check my chronology after this. Just use ChatGPT to check my chronology. There we go. But more importantly, pressurized ink, 0 gravity, ink goes to the nib. So this is an apocryphal story, i.e. it's slightly made up. At the end of the space race, there was an exchange of technology, and the cosmonauts visited the astronauts and went, show us what you've got. And they showed spacesuits. They were, that's amazing, nice and shiny logo. This is our space pen. It was on a purple cushion, John Williams music on in the background, maybe spotlighted. And they were, look at it can write in 0 gravity, pressurized ink cartridge. And the Russian cosmonauts apparently said, that's interesting. We just used pencils. Now, there were lots of good reasons why a pen was needed, okay? And I've been told by many engineers from the likes of Google and QuickBooks that a pencil would have been really dangerous. Lead in the atmosphere, not reliable, it might break, all these reasons, right? But it lands a serious point, which is make sure that you're working on the right level of challenge before you jump into coming up with solutions. So are you ready for a tool? Yeah, you come out on a Tuesday night for tools. Red wine, 3 tools, that's what I want from tonight. Right, okay. So let's go for a tool. Everyone, put your hands in the air like so. Say to me, in a cult-like fashion, the word funnel. Funnel. Come into here and say, of. And then with a slightly scary, intimidating tone, I want you to say, focus. What's this tool called? Well remembered. You will never forget the name of this tool. Right, there we go. I'll never do that again, just so you know. How it works is in your head have a mental model of a funnel and ask yourself, is the challenge I'm working on right now a bit broad? Yeah, where do I start? Often agencies call this a bowl the ocean brief. I don't know where to begin on this project. Or, in fact, is it too tight where someone briefs you with a problem, an opportunity, a challenge, and you go, sorry, but the answer's already in the question. Yeah? And good creative problem solving comes when you're somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be too tight. You don't want to be too narrow. It's like good porridge. Yeah, good porridge. Just get it right, okay? So here's a quick example of that. We'll go back to Space Pen. So the original Space Pen brief was design us a pen that writes in space. So I would say that's quite a way down the funnel. And to push it up, you say, well, why do you need to write a pen that writes in space? Why? Well, you just need to write in space, presumably, so a pencil might work. Why do they really need to write in space? Was it to make quick calculations in space? The computer processing back then was about as good as this watch. So in order to get safely back through the atmosphere, they needed to be able to make quick calculations. So that was the real challenge here, make quick calculations in space. What ideas are you now having? Not just a pen. Well, how else can you do that? Huh? Simple calculator. In fact, the Casio evolved with a calculator, didn't it? Yeah. Anything else? How can you make quick calculations? Could be a connection back to, base camp for someone else to do that for you. Yeah. So there we go. Now you could make it more specific. You could say you need to design a pen that writes in space, and it also needs to be in blue because NASA's standard ink is blue. Yeah, give it more specificity. Okay? Now, I used to work at an innovation agency. It got bought by Accenture a few years ago. So, unfortunately, I didn't have any shares, so I left just before that. And wasn't bitter. There was a brief came into the agency, and it's one of those every now and again for those that work in agencies. You might see pound signs when a brief comes through the door. The brief was from a company you all know and love, the Pepsi-Cola company. Anyone from PepsiCo or work with PepsiCo in the room? So, and it was, help us find the next big thing in what the Americans call carbonated beverages. We like to call pop, right? Okay. That's a big brief, a very broad brief, but where you start is impossible on that challenge. So the team working on the challenge said, we're going to explore this brief with you, this problem that we're looking to solve here. Can we get a bit more specificity? And they said, well, actually, what we'd like you to do is, can you design the Pepsi Max can so it looks a bit funkier like Red Bull? Right? Now, that is a go off and do the work on the problem, go and implement it straight away. The answer is in the question. So we said, well, why do you want to do that? And they said, well, we spend so much of our time looking at what Coca-Cola does, a bit like Adidas and Nike, just looking at your direct competitor. We've totally missed this strange little Austrian drink that tastes disgusting, but teenagers are loving over here, right? They're doing amazing things. So we think we need to actually start competing with them and start to get our share back, our market share with teenagers, because that's when drinking habits are formed with carbonated beverages, okay? And then we said, well, actually, why do you want to do that? And the challenge ended up, how do we authentically start to get into the functional drinks market as PepsiCo? We've got nothing there in that space. How do we do that? Okay. And that's where the challenge ended up. Now, look, when you're working on this, what I would say is just explore. You might end up in exactly the same place that you were at the start of your problem and the way you were thinking about it. But if you just explore what could be broader, what could be tighter, you might find that your problem that you're solving for is a slightly different issue. All good? What's the tool called? Very underwhelming, everyone. What's it called? Yeah, so I'm exploring this at the moment. One of my briefs for the year to myself, a problem for myself is I've done a lot of speeches at conferences. I've not got as many booked in the calendar for this year. I don't know why. Why is that? And actually, I could say to myself, well, how do I get more speaking opportunities? Well, how might I do that? What is a more tight definition on that? What could I do to get on stages at more conferences talking about creative thinking? What could I do? Pick up the phone. So who is my targeted list of people organizing conferences? It could be, how do I engage the best speaker bureaus in the world to help me get on those stages, whatever it may be. What's the broader issue? How to get more speaking opportunities at conferences. What is my broader issue? Yeah, how am I getting myself out? How am I marketing myself? It doesn't have to be necessarily on a paid-for basis, just how am I, you could go, how am I really famous? Yeah, I don't want to go there, by the way, just so you know. But it might be more about fame and notoriety than it is just about being on stages at conferences. Then I land and go, where do I want to actually play here? Yeah. All good. So that's one tool to provoke the problem. Next one is this one here. I notice a lot, I see a lot of briefing documents going out of clients' offices into agencies and production companies, etc., and I see them going internally as well. Is it fair to say that when you see a problem stated out there in the world, it is laced with a bit of jargon? Yeah? I don't work in any of your businesses because I run my own business. Tell me some jargon that you know that I won't understand. It might be an acronym, it might be something you use and you know that I won't understand. What have we got? EMV. EMV. No idea. Hit me with it. Right, okay. Media value. Total bullshit. TV. Total bullshit. Right, okay. Any others? ROI. No, I know that. Return on investment. Yeah. But often quite vague what that is, yeah. Any others? ROE, return on experience. Nice. Worst bit of jargon I've ever heard was for a travel company that you'll all know and love. And it was all about, they do cruises. And they were wanting to do a problem was all about really knowing their customer obsession. And they described in their problem statement something they took on their cruise ships, their boats, as SMC. Anyone knows what that stands for in the travel industry? SMC? Self-moving cargo. You or I to them is just self-moving cargo. So an early idea on that challenge was maybe don't talk about your passengers as SMC. There we go. But this is a problem. We sound clever, it makes sense, the problem, but it doesn't really engage us at all. So another way to provoke the problem and think differently about the problem is the way you're looking at it, the way you're describing it. So here's a couple of different ways. So the technique is called re-articulate. And how you go about that is you either change the language of how you're describing it, and the rule there is no what? 3-letter acronyms, yeah. No 3-letter acronyms, no jargon in that way. And then the other one is maybe change the perspective of how you're looking at a problem. Rather than looking at it a problem for you, look at it a problem from your audience, your customer, whatever it may be. Change the angle of it. A couple of quick examples. So one quite famous example that I'm going to get into now. So I work a lot in healthcare, pharmaceutical companies, etc. And probably the most famous case study about looking at a problem from a different angle was this. So there's a perennial problem, which is if you've got a kid, particularly young kids, and they need to have an MRI scan, it's very hard to get them to stay in the same position when they're quite scared, a bit anxious, and probably just quite active and want to do stuff, to get a really good MRI scan. So if you give an articulation of that statement as, how can we make children still during an MRI scan? Healthcare professionals genuinely come up with this, a neck brace that holds their head in position for the amount of time needed. Not particularly engaging for a child, quite horrifying. Now, an engineer from General Electric, a guy called Doug Dietz, was horrified when he heard the noise of a child going into an MRI scan. So redefined and re-articulated the challenge from a different angle to say, how can we make children calm and relaxed during an MRI scan? I've only changed 2 or 3 words, but the angle of it's changed. What ideas are you now coming up with? Calm music. Music on it, so it's multi-sensory, other things going on. Yes, we've got cartoons going on, maybe on the way in, got sounds of the characters going on, even in the top on the MRI scan, if that would work. Any other ideas? Yeah, so the soothing voices of a parent or someone they recognise to talk them through the experience and reassuring them everything's going to be all right, rather than this isolated vault that they've just disappeared into. That's exactly it. This This is an image of an MRI scan where they transformed it into a total experience, where you go into the submarine, you stay still in there, so you don't disturb the fish around you. There's noises, there's characters. And I was sharing this on a workshop not long back, and someone put their hand up and said, I was just in that room last week. It's the Palo Alto Hospital in Silicon Valley. The team working on it from General Electric worked with the Stanford D School and actually trialed it and put it into place. And he said, my kid went in there, was so excited about it, said, when can I go for my next MRI scan? I don't know if anyone in the rooms have an MRI scan, but you definitely don't want to go back for another. Yeah? There we go. Let's change the language now, try and remove the jargon. This was a challenge that came into my old agency, which was all about the number 2 in the market to Nespresso. Who's got an evil Nespresso machine in the room? Admit it, it's confessional. There's about a quarter of the hands that should be up in the room. I know statistically way more of you have an espresso machine. You do, don't you? Yeah, there we go. Anyway, this was number 2 in the market, trying to steal a march on Nespresso. And it was one of the factors that drive taste preference among segment 2A consumers in the single-serve in-house coffee market. Who's excited to go and work on that? Yeah. And the problem is the language might be familiar to a few marketers who know the segmentation, all that kind of stuff, but it's not particularly human and engaging, right? So boiled down in human terms, it was just, for those that like to make a fresh coffee, what's the difference between a great cup and just a good one, okay? And actually, the team working on that realized that it's not just about the taste preference, it's about the experience of the machine. The difference between a plastic button and a metal button to work with, or a noise that the machine makes. So this particular brand that they were working on, when you pressed go on your coffee, the first noise you heard was the noise of the pod being scanned, right? Which sounded like this. Now that's not particularly satisfying, is it, if you're making a coffee? Whereas if you hear an espresso when you press go, it goes, it's doing the same thing, it just makes a noise to make you think this is a proper coffee. That's why 8 people in the room have got one. Okay. So it led people to think about it's the experience, the noise and everything, the haptics of the machine. It's not just about taste. Okay. So whatever challenge you're working on, is it fair to say there's plenty of jargon floating around? Yeah. I asked that question in Paris the other week and realized, I was like, just checking, does jargon translate into French? And this guy just put his hand up and went, it's a French word, jargon. And he paused and he went, you idiot. It's great. Love France. No, I do actually. I spend about half my year there. So there we go. So final tool. Hands up in the room. Who has a to-do list? Show me how much stuff's on there. Yeah. It's really time to show off. Yeah. Lots of stuff. Do you segment it into urgent? Yeah. Do you have a personal column? Fun? Do you have fun stuff? It's the bit you go to as a priority, and then yeah. Okay. Right. So well done. You might even use apps for it. Right. My follow-up question is, who has a to think about list? Survey says less people. Similar number to those that own and are willing to admit they own Nespresso machines. But there we go. So the final tool is this. Have yourself a to think about list. Now, the good news for the to-do list people, which we all are, is a to think about list should have that much stuff on it, which is one problem you are looking to solve right now. Okay? Because if you give your mind focus on something you want to procrastinate on, it will come up with answers for you. Okay? So it's a one-list, which is the good news of a to think about list. Okay? I always ask people where you have your best ideas. I'm guessing for people, put your hands up when I hit the right answer. Is it in the bathroom of some kind? Shower, toilet? Is it walking some animal or doing exercise? Is it commuting to work? Yeah? Is it going for a bit of a light jog? Yeah, all those things. Is it bouncing off someone else in a coffee shop, whatever it may be? Is it after one drink at Elevate, you are at your creative best? Okay. So let your mind be deliberate about what it focuses on. So the think about list is write down your problem, boil it down, get rid of jargon, boil it down to its essence, and then actually step away from it, reflect on it, Bill Gates allegedly did his best thinking, his best ideas when he was just drying the final dishes at the end of the night after dinner. Yeah? If you believe the documentaries that are quite set up and staged. Okay. Sleep on it, because as we know through recent sleep science, we make our most far-reaching neural connections when we're in deep sleep. We have amazing things. The whole phrase, let's sleep on it, that's a really valid thing to do. When you come back the next day, you might not have solved the problem, but I guarantee you'll have had some movement in your thinking. You'll have some fresh perspective on your thinking. Quick story to end on. Quite a few years ago, something happened in the woodlands of Switzerland, okay? Anyone here traveled to Switzerland? Amazing landscapes, happiest people in the world, yeah? Because everything works and they've got nature nearby. George de Mestral was an inventor, but a scientist as well. And he was walking with his dog in the woods. And he noticed that at the end of the walk, these sticky burrs would be attached to the dog's fur. Growing up, I used to have cocker spaniels, and they used to come back pulling their ears, them yelping slightly. Gave me great joy as a child. No, it didn't really. It's a horrible thing. But what was incredible was the scientists thought, this is really interesting, because the problem I've been working on in the world of fashion innovation, which is zippers and buttons are awkward, okay? So started to look at this way of fastening, perhaps, and noticed that it was the hooks on the plant connecting with the loops on the dog's fur, and obviously led to an amazing innovation. Tell me what it is after 3. 1, 2, 3. Velcro. So you know. But the key thing is, you just never know. If you plant something, a problem in your head, and you're walking in nature, you're walking down a street in London, ideas come and find you. So you don't have to be an idea generator. You have to be tuned up to the ideas that are out there already. Okay? And if you've got the problem landed, that will help you do that. And I know we can't live without it now. I've got 2 kids now that are under 10 years old, but many years of their life, there I am using Velcro in order to fasten their shoes. It's easy out of the house. It's less frustrating when they go on the beach and rip their shoes off. Velcro has saved many hours of my life. Okay, and who watched Eurovision on the weekend? More people than Nespresso owners. Every Eurovision, there's a Velcro moment. I always wait for it. There was one where one of the presenters revealed quite a funky dress on the weekend. The most famous of all time. Anyone know this group here? Bucks Fizz, Eurovision winners, was where they went into a slightly different outfit through the use of Velcro. And that wouldn't have happened if someone hadn't just wandered thinking about the problems and almost unfocused about the problems and spotted a new and different connection. So God bless the dog, God bless the Swiss countryside. It led to a great idea. Okay, so I managed to loop back Switzerland where the Eurovision was on the weekend. That is impressive and totally wasn't intentional. So there we go. Right, everyone, so the big discipline, if you want to go and get creative, if you want to solve problems, the key word is problems. Fall in love with the problem. Provoke it. Challenge it. Don't assume that it's stated in the right way, and solutions will be easy. 3 techniques to do that. Funnel of focus. Final time, everyone. Funnel of focus. Quite sinister. That will just test the levels you're working at. Second one is re-articulate. Don't live with the language that's in a briefing document, a problem statement, whatever it may be. Twist it, change it, make it work for you. And then have a to think about list. Allow your mind to wander on something deliberate, something specific, and ideas will come your way. Thank you to Elevate and having us all here this evening. Give yourself a massive round of applause, everyone.
This project is powered by our partners Cvent, Jack Morton, Live Union, Powwow, PSP, the production department, and We Are Collider. Our training partner is Matt Bolton-Alarcón from Special Source Training, and our people and culture partners are Zoe Tuffs from Times 10 Coaching and people and culture strategy consultant Nic Neal. And our venue partner is Protein Studios. Our sound engineer is Matteo Magrelio, and our producer is me, Peter Kerwood. Together we're changing lives, careers, and the events industry for the better.